I want you to think about the most memorable events in your life, the things that really stand out to you. Maybe it's graduation, maybe it's a wedding, a funeral, maybe it was the happiest day of your life, the day that you finally finished that 5K, or you earned that job promotion, or you finally got that cute person to smile at you. Whatever it was, what is the one thing that ties all of these memorable events in your life together? Stories. Stories connect us. Stories happen and they enable us to remember the events in our lives and make what made them so memorable. I remember when I was at Eric's wedding and I danced so hard and so long that the heel came off my shoe, and I just shucked my shoe in the bushes, and we all laughed about it, and it was one of the best nights of my life. Those sort of stories are ones that you tell, the ones that make the significance behind the events that make your parts of your life memorable. The beautiful thing about stories is we have the power to create the stories that we want to tell. Let me give you an example. When I was growing up, my dad would be passed out on the floor sometimes when I came home. Or he would come home and be completely belligerent and start yelling at us for no good reason. It took a long time before I realized that this had a name to it. And once I realized that my father was an alcoholic and I couldn't control his behavior, I stopped having friends over. I told myself a story around this. I was the girl with the weird father who would yell and be nasty one moment and then perfectly nice the next, who hid it from everyone, and I was the girl with the secret torment that no one else could know about. That was sort of a sucky story because it limited my world. I didn't invite people over to spend the night with me growing up. I wanted to avoid situations where I might have to introduce people to my parents. It was not a good story. I grew up and I decided my story needed to grow up too. My story, once I realized it had a name, was that I'm a daughter of an alcoholic, and I joined Al-Anon, and I found out I'm not the only person in the world who has this problem. All right, you may laugh at that now, but back then I didn't know that other people had this. Everybody else is trying to hide things too sometimes. So I realized I had the power to change my story. So my story is now, I'm a survivor. Yeah, I went through some tough stuff when I was growing up, but I became a better person for it on the other end. I realized when we tell ourselves the wrong stories, we often feel stupid about it or scared, or we create emotions that we don't need to have. And it's because we've put this mindset in our stories that makes us feel terrible. One thing I used to do is I would always look to books for advice. Books were impartial. Books wouldn't roll their eyes at me when I tried to tell them my problems. And I decided books were a way for others to tell their stories too, that they could share what was on their heart. And I realized I wanted to be able to tell stories, to help other people to tell their own stories, and also to help them to change the sucky stories that we play in our heads. You know those stories. You're not good enough, or you're not pretty enough, or you don't have any business doing that, or who are you to think you could do that? Those are also stories. These are really terrible stories, and I want you to know you have the power to change them. So I want to encourage you to apply this in your own life. When you feel called to share something, how are you playing that tape in your head? Are you giving yourself supportive messages? Are you saying, "Ugh, you're not good enough to do this, how dare you?" Does a fire truck go by while you're recording a video? When you feel called on to share something, do you do it with confidence? Do you create a story in which you can be a character in your own life who contributes? The thing is, you have everything you need to tell your own story your way. All right, I didn't make it on the team, but you know what? I still kick ass because I run much faster than I used to. And yeah, I didn't get that job position, but you know what? I think there's something else around the corner for me. I think what I really want is to stand up and be an entrepreneur. So listen to the stories that you tell yourself. You have everything you need to channel your passion. Just reach deep down inside there. And I want you to make sure that you make it happen. I love helping people write their story and share it in a way, and then live their story. I did it myself when I became an entrepreneur, and now I get to help other people tell their stories too. Thank you.